So this is the quote explanation chart, and this is what you are going to use in order to prepare yourself and organize your thoughts for your writing. The purpose of this is for you to organize the evidence that you select from the text, paraphrase it into your own words, and then tell me what you think that means or how that relates to the overall question. I'm going to explain how this works and go through it step by step with you. So, the first thing you do in a quote explanation chart is you give me the context for the reading. And this would be the background information about the source or what is happening at that time. So you all are only using one source, which is why there's only one space for context, but this becomes extremely important, especially when you're using more than one source. So this might tell me, what is the title of the article? What is the article about? Who wrote it? Is there any sort of reason as to why they wrote it? Was there something happening at that time that felt like they needed to write it? That is what goes into the context. So you're pretending as though the person who's going to eventually read your response has never read that article, so you have to give them a little bit of background about it. So, for example, this is an article out of Inference magazine. It's about this topic. It was written by this individual. Once you complete that, you are going to then select your evidence that's going to help answer the question. So you're going to look back at the prompt and determine what pieces of evidence from the text help you answer this prompt. In this case, you're going to want to look back to 6.7 and 6.6 if you have it in order to answer that question. The information from those two handouts will be very helpful. So evidence is going to be something that you take directly from the text. That can be something where you describe a picture. It can be a quote. It can be a statistic, which means a set of numbers that explains something. It can be a fact. So it doesn't just have to be a quote. It can be, but it can also include anything that comes from the text itself. And you're going to choose however many pieces of evidence there are boxes and put those right here. The second part is your paraphrasing. You're putting this in your own words. Or if you're using a photo, you're describing that photo in more detail. So here you might just say, it's a picture of the march. And here you might say what you see happening in that picture. The inference is going to be, what does this evidence tell us? So this shows, or this provides, or this explains. You can even tie it back up to your prompt and say, this shows creating social change by ... or this shows to this extent ... So the inference part is where you're tying it back into your prompt. Why are you using that piece of evidence? And again, make sure you're always answering the question. So in this case, it's to what extent. Make sure you're telling me, is this movement really social change? To a great extent, to a lesser extent? What extent do you think that this movement is social change? So always make sure you're answering the prompt. Once you are finished with this, you are going to go ahead and take this exact information and then plug it into your quick outline. I know that seems kind of redundant and a little bit like, why am I redoing this or doing this over? And there is a method for my madness. The reason why I want you to do it this way is because it helps you then put it in chronological order. So this may not be in order. It may just be pieces of evidence that you find. This is going to force you to put it in order. You don't have to copy everything word for word. Remember, you are going to, on dotted lines, just use abbreviations or shortened statements. You do not need to write complete sentences on dotted lines. So what you're going to do is you're going to write your topic sentence. You can use the context, which I highly recommend, as part of your topic sentence. So you can take the information from here and plug it in down there. It would make the most sense in this essay style, since this is just a short response. Again, if you're using a variety of pieces of evidence, or I'm sorry, a variety of different resources or different articles or different texts, you would not set it up this particular way. But when you're only using one text, this is the best way to set it up. Then you're going to take your information from the chart, evidence, paraphrase, and inference, and just copy it down here. Again, I know it seems like you're doing the same thing over again, but it helps you put your thought process in order. Once you're finished with that, you're going to go ahead and complete your concluding sentence. And your concluding sentence, you are going to, in conclusion, to this extent, go ahead and make sure you're really answering the prompt in that concluding sentence. Now, once you are finished with this, you're going to go ahead and write out your written response. You can write out your written response either at the bottom here, or if you would like notebook paper, you can write it on notebook paper. That is fine. If you're having trouble with how to start off any of your sentences, you can go ahead and look online, Google sentence starters for topic sentences and concluding sentences. They do exist. They're very helpful. I highly recommend you do that. All right, and that is it for the quote explanation chart.